Mortal Kombat 2 is the sequel to the 2021 reboot film Mortal Kombat, produced by Warner Bros. Pictures and New Line Cinema. The first movie, Mortal Kombat, which was released in 2021, performed strongly on streaming through Max and developed a solid fan audience despite mixed critical reception. Because of that, the sequel was greenlit fairly quickly. The early development of Mortal Kombat 2 was shaped heavily by the reception to the 2021 reboot. While the first movie performed well commercially and streamed strongly on Max, fans and critics had several recurring complaints. The actual tournament barely happening, some classic characters were missing, and the new protagonist, Ko Young, divided audiences. Because of that feedback, the sequel's development started with a clearer mission: make the movie feel more like the games fans grew up with. Even before the 2021 film released, producer Todd Garner and director Simon McQuaid had discussed long-term plans for multiple films if the reboot succeeded. The ending of the first movie was intentionally designed as sequel bait, with the heroes preparing for the actual Mortal Kombat tournament, Shao Kahn's forces still being active, and Johnny Cage teased in Hollywood. This tease became one of the biggest talking points online after release. The studio closely watched online reactions, especially from Reddit communities, fighting game fans, and long-time Mortal Kombat players. A major conclusion from audience response was that the fans wanted more established game characters, less focus on original characters, Ko Young, more martial arts tournament structure, and a tone closer to the game's mix of seriousness and absurd fun. This influenced the sequel's writing very early on. The developers also realized that the franchise worked best when it embraced its identity instead of trying to ground everything too realistically. One of the earliest development questions was how to introduce Johnny Cage. The filmmakers had intentionally excluded him from the first movie because they worried his comedic personality might clash with the serious tone, and they did not want him overshadowing new characters. But after release, fan demand for Johnny Cage became overwhelming. The team reportedly decided the sequel needed a bigger personality, more humor, and a charismatic movie star energy. That decision helped shape the tone of the sequel very early. In 2022, Jeremy Slater, known for his work on Moon Knight, The Umbrella Academy, and The Exorcist, was brought in to write the screenplay. Slater openly said he was a longtime fan of the games and wanted to lean more into the franchise mythology, wild character interactions, and large-scale tournament storytelling. He also discussed wanting to balance brutal violence, emotional character moments, and self-aware fun. According to interviews, the writers wanted the sequel to feel closer to the energy fans associate with the arcade-era games and later story modes. Early planning for the sequel involved deciding how much of the Mortal Kombat lore to include without overwhelming casual audiences. The writers reportedly focused on simplifying the core conflict around Outrealm versus Outworld, the tournament itself, and the relationships between iconic fighters. The movie follows Johnny Cage, a washed-up action star in Hollywood recruited by Sonya Blade and Lord Raiden to help fight against the forces of Shao Kahn in an interdimensional tournament called Mortal Kombat. With the help of Edenian Princess Kitana, of course. While we spend a lot of time with Johnny Cage, the story is just as much for Kitana, as she has a more personal stake and part to play. The structure is very simple. Teach Johnny Cage about Mortal Kombat. Johnny Cage decides if he wants to fight in Mortal Kombat, fight in Mortal Kombat, and help end Mortal Kombat. But at some points, the plot is not cohesive, as putting Johnny on the forefront made some older characters sidelined, and some story beats be disjointed. Obviously, as a result from trying to set up a sequel. Johnny learning about the tournament and its stakes, and we watch how he develops as a person trying to tackle responsibility, is one of the core themes of the movie. While that took the forefront, we also had Kitana having to bear the burden of being groomed by Shao Kahn, who killed her father, sneaking behind him to help Raiden while also maintaining a relationship with her friend Jade. In my opinion, Kitana's story was much more complex, so It was a wasted opportunity to not flesh out Haas and Shao Kahn's relationship and dynamic. The fights in the tournament were decent, but the standout was Liu Kang versus Kung Lao. The slight visual storytelling with its color grading, the more personal choreography, and emotional connection made this the only compelling fight in the movie. And apparently, in the IMAX version, there were life bars. I didn't know that. One of my major gripes with the movie, though, is that it has little trust for the audience. I get that it's supposed to be an action movie, but that does not make the audiences meatheads who can't recognize basic character development. It is literally pointed out in the movie the exact time Johnny develops. I found that incredibly infuriating. Shao Kahn is not even this threatening force, losing to people he should not be losing to. Characters dying, but there is no reaction from teammates. It felt so sociopathic. And then we had one other character just leaving the tournament because there has to be a setup for a sequel. One of the characters I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did was Kano. It was just really funny, and his motivations were just the best. He doesn't think out what makes the world fun. There's just darkness without booze and threesomes, and he wants booze and threesomes. Really easy character motivation to get behind. And when it comes to character dynamics, I dare say he makes Johnny Cage more fun to watch. I felt Sonya was just there. After recruiting Johnny, there wasn't that much for her to do. She did get her battle in the tournament, and I guess that was it. Liu Kang and by extension Kung Lao had the best fight in the movie, and it was just really personal and cinematic. Liu Kang does do something, I guess, but later on he suffers from the poor writing in the script. Jax was there, he was okay. He has presence even when he isn't speaking, so that's cool. His fights are really boring though. Ko Young, I really didn't like him here. In the 2021 movie, I did not mind him at all. I thought he was an okay addition, quite frankly, but here he was just so distant from the plot and the team. It was hard to vibrate, and the script does not treat him well either. It was kind of just cold to him. My least favorite was Raiden. Barely did anything. I guess it's just understandable. The plot needs to find a way to nerf him because he is too powerful, but whatever. Kitana was okay. Her fight scenes were decent. She had a much deeper backstory, and there was more tragedy she had to tackle. Jade goes well with Kitana. They felt like how Gamora and her sister would have been if they were more fleshed out and if they had liked each other from the onset. Okay, Reddy's portrayal, I just feel they should have leaned more on the godly side and the stereotypical sensei type, if that makes sense. I think Karl Urban does his best with what he was given, but he could barely sell Johnny Cage to me. He just had a more Kano look to him than Johnny Cage, sadly. Speaking of Kano, Josh Lawson does offer a fun portrayal of the character. He's cunning, unruly, and funny. Adeline Rudolph as Katana was really good. She's able to sell this brand of humble regality hiding under pride and brutality. It was compelling to watch, and it's sad the script did not give her much to work with. Jessica McName, who plays Sonya Blade, did not leave much of an impression on me. She was not bad or anything, she just did not have much to work with. Ludelin as Liu Kang was okay for the most part. He was great during his fight with Kung Lao, where there was just this emotional depth to him, but after that it's just there, so it's whatever. Mehcad Brooks, who plays Jax, has a lot of presence, even when he isn't speaking, so I'll just say I loved his aura. Other than that, there was really nothing else. Tati Gabrielle as Jade was good, really stoic, yet I feel like she could have used more scenes where something internal was going on. Louis Tan as Ko Young was really not all that great. There was nothing he could do, to be fair. I feel like the script was written for him to be as distant from the movie as possible. I'll be honest, despite my gripes with the movie, the costumes for the most part look great. Except maybe Jax. I don't really like the arms, they're so bulky. A lot of times during the fight, I wish some locations could have more people in it. The desolate feeling makes some fights feel so bland and dry. The colors in the film are actually pretty good, especially Liu Kang versus Kung Lao. Like seriously, why way more of the fights like this? The camera work in the third act was great too, very dynamic stuff for the setting and choreography. All in all, I'll say the movie was average and could have been better.